Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Jacoby fishing fans from all over the world, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 spots to fish in the month of June. June fishing can be some of the best fishing in the whole out of the whole entire year. Actually, the PB bass that was caught, like the world record bass that was caught for the Florida largemouth, was caught in June 2nd when it was caught. And then the world record smallmouth bass was caught on July 4th, or no, somewhere in the beginning part of July. So some big bass can be caught in the month of June or throughout the whole summer. Now there's specific spots that you can fish in the month of June. First off, which is probably the most productive to fish, is bluegill beds. Bluegill are starting to spawn all throughout June, and they'll keep spawning, specifically in the south, throughout the whole summer. And they'll spawn like in the south 6, 7, or 8 times throughout the whole summer. Up north, they may spawn 3 or 4 times, but down south, they spawn lots and lots of times. They'll spawn all the way through August and September. I've had them spawn till October and September. Very first day, there is still some on beds. It's wild, I know, but it is wild fishing in the month of June. The first spot is the bluegill beds. Bluegill beds, the bluegill are spawning. Bluegill are one of the best big food sources, like crawfish and shad, or herring, or gizzard shad, depending on where you are in the country. But bluegill are one of the best meals that a bass can eat, because usually bluegill are a little bit bigger than shad. Just they're taller, more meaty, they can eat less and still have more energy. So basically, the bass will target and ambush the smaller bluegill that are spawning, and they'll sit on the edges or like in docks or structure around the bluegill beds, and they'll come out and they'll just ambush them, and once the bluegill swims by, they'll come out and lash out and like nap them. Okay, I've pulled out maybe two like good bluegill from a bass's stomach before. One was like, like pop out yay big, and the other one was like a slow smallmouth this big. Well, I've also pulled out a gizzard shad about this big from a bass's stomach before. It was wild. Bass will eat bluegill this big, and they'll eat bluegill this big. It's crazy. Bass love to eat bluegill. There's no doubt about it. So that's a great way to catch bass in the month of June. If you want to know what lures to throw around these bluegill beds, check out my last video. I'll put the link down in the description. Just copy and paste it and put it in Google, and you will be able to watch the video where I decided top baits for the month of June. In that video, I did not include one bait that really works for the month of June from bluegill beds, and that is a soft plastic jerk bait. Get you a fluke, get you a whiplash shad, get you a Senko in a bluegill color like a green pumpkin or like a watermelon red or something like that, and throw that around the bluegill beds. Let it fall, jerk that boy a couple times, boom, and go like that, and the bass see, and go, ooh, what's that? And look at it, and look at it, and look at it, and they eat it. It's one of the most fun fishing you can do. And then, where do the bass hang out around the bluegill beds? The bass are not going to hang out if the bluegill bed's about a palm, okay? The bluegill bed's about palm. The bass ain't going to hang out in the middle, okay? They're going to hang out on the edges of my palm. They're going to hang out because sometimes the bluegill, they'll like there's grass, they'll make a spot in the grass. And the bass really help with this, because when the bass spawn, the bluegill will spawn on the same ground and sand and stuff. So the bass kind of did all the work for them. The bluegill just have to make their beds real quick. And it looks like a bunch of little tires in the sand. And that's what bluegill will spawn on. They'll spawn on tires. Like, if you get a big tire field, they'll spawn on them too. That's a really good place to catch spawning bluegill. but they'll look like little tires, and there'll be like 20 beds in a group. So if they're in a big, like if the grass is surrounding them, bass will be in the grass all around the bluegill beds, and they'll just be sitting there waiting for a bluegill to come out and like right in front of their face, and then lash out and grab it. And then, but if the bluegills like are on like a hard bottom, like a sandy bottom, or like a rocky bottom, the bass will hang out around the closest structure to the bluegill beds, whether that be a dock, a wood, lay down trees, rocks, anything like that. The bass will hang on that stuff and wait for a bluegill to come by, and then once the bluegill comes by, the bass will lash out and grab it. So just be looking. Look for the best possible structure for the bass to chill on, watching and waiting for a bluegill to walk by their face. That's a great place to catch bass in the month of June. Number 2 spot to catch bass in the month of June is docks. Docks are a great way to catch bass all year long, but especially in the month of June. Not only can you catch bass that are on docks that are eating bluegills while they're spawning, you can also catch bass that are just on docks for shade, because it's dang hot down here in the south. When in the June, we already had like 100 degrees. It's like high 90s for the rest of the week down here. But the bass are going to be wanting the shade and cooler water in the month of June. Another place where the bass want in the month of June is they want it so they can just get an ambush point. Because think about it. If you're in a dark room and you open your door and your hallway's like lit, you can hide in that room and the person can walk by your door and they can't even see you, but you can see them. That's what the bass is thinking. They're hiding in your room or in their room, and they're waiting for a bluegill to go down their hallway, and then they're just going to go out and grab it. If you ever played hide and seek before, the key strat was to hang in the dark and just scare the seeker right when they come by. That was a strat back in the day. Just make sure you fish the dock different angles, especially on highly pressured scenarios. Like if you're on a highly pressured lake where bass have seen multiple jigs, multiple texture rigs, multiple wacky worms, make sure you fish at a different angle. Think about it. Most of the world is right-handed. Just accept that. I know some of y'all left-handed, but most of the world is right-handed. So most people are going to skip under there right-handed. So that means the bass are going to see that bait from the right angle. But what if you get really good and you can go to the left side of the dock and skip that way? That's an angle that bass have not seen. And they will think, oh, that's a real bluegill on the bottom. Oh, that's a real crawfish. Oh, that's a real whatever that is. Oh, that's a real thing. I haven't not seen that before. Oh, I know what that is. Fred got caught by that last week. Oh, I've seen that before. I'm not eating that. But when they get it from a different angle, you take the same bait, when you put it at a different angle and say, oh, I've never seen that over there before. Oh, I've never seen that over there. You know? Just like if you do something different. Like you trim your skirt. Oh, that's a size I haven't seen before. That's what the bass are thinking. Oh, I put a little spike on there? Wow, that's different. I've never seen that color before. You know? You put something different on your bait when you're skipping around docks, because docks are not an unobvious thing. Everybody can see a dock. That's what docks are meant to do. Your goal is to have the biggest and best dock on the lake. That's your goal. So, you want the bass to think your bait is different from the rest. So think in your mind how you can make your bait different from the rest. If that's trimming it, downsizing it, upsizing it, doing it from a different angle, what it really works is going from the back. So like positioning your boat on, you're basically on the bank and you're skipping it underneath. So you're coming from the down, you're pulling it. If this is the dock and you're back here, this is the front of the lake where people mostly skip, but you're back here and you skip that thing under it at a different angle that no bass have seen before. That's where you can catch those bigger and better average fish that are smarter and seen all those jigs, Texas rigs, and wacky worms before. And you could catch a lot of big dogfish doing that. Number 3 place to catch bass in the month of June is points. Points you can catch fish all year round. But main lake points and secondary points are what I'm talking about now. The shad come out on those points and then just kind of suspend and eat plankton and do whatever. The bass in the morning and pretty much throughout the whole day, but really in the morning and evening will get on those bait and you can catch them real good on like some type of topwater. But the real reason why the bass went on that point is they're trying to recuperate from the spawn. They get on that deep water and they're just trying to recuperate from the spawn because they had been guarding fry for literally a month and they want to get a break, okay? It's like your parents after they've been with you for a week or like a whole summer and they're ready to put you back to school. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And basically, if I drag a big worm or jig on that point and I don't feel any cover or any structure, I'm moving. Okay? I fish a deep water object 4 different ways. Number 1, I yeet a deep diving crankbait there. If I can fish it there. If it's too deep for deep diving crankbait, I'll just go straight to the next option. But I'll just throw a deep crankbait around there. I'll give it about 10 casts. I'll make a 5 fan casts and then 5 fan casts back. And if I don't get any fish there, then I'll move to my second option, which is a big jig or worm. Now, I'll kind of switch it up throughout the day because some days they'll be wanting the jig more than the worm. I find that on more cloudy or more windy days, they'll be wanting the jig. And it's also easier to throw the jig on the windier and cloudier days because you just have more contact with your bait. But on the calmer, cleaner water, maybe sunny days, they'll be wanting the big worm more because it's a more subtle approach. You ever know about 12 inches? The jig has a lot going on to it, but the big worm has something more a little subtle. It's just one big thing, but the jig is like a small little thing with everything. Now, I could be totally wrong, and I've got days where it's kind of a jig, and I've just yeeted it out there in the cleanest, calmest water and bluebird skies, and I've caught it. Now, a football jig is... nobody throws it anymore. What? I don't know. Like now I have a sneaking jig head minnow and mooch minnow and a 4-shade sonar. It all works, trust me. I've tried it. I've tried it all. It all works, and it's really good for catching bass. Go back to the traditional ways of bass fishing. The good old handy Senko, football jig, big worm, stuff like that. And if I don't get anything on the big worm, and I still think there's bass there, but if I don't feel any structure with the big worm or jig, I'll move on. But if I feel structure, I'll probably go on to the second option. Depending on how deep it is. If it's about 10 feet or less, I'm throwing an eco rig. But if it's about 10 feet or more, I'm throwing a drop shot or a Ned rig, depending if I'm fishing for smallmouth or largemouth. If I'm fishing for largemouth, I'm throwing that drop shot. If I'm fishing for smallmouth, I'm throwing a Ned rig. It's just my personal preference. You can fish however you want, though. And I'll throw that drop shot probably about 7, 8, 10 casts because I'm working more slow. But that jig and a big worm, I'll probably do for 12 or 15 casts because I have a more better chance of catching a fish on that than I do a crankbait. Just because if the bass are not running it, I can catch the lethargic bass and I can also catch an active bass fishing that. But a crankbait, I can really only catch an active bass. But a drop shot, I only fish about 7 or 8 casts because if they haven't hit the worm and they're not hitting the drop shot, then I don't know. If I haven't got any bites and I still believe that there's bass down there, the last thing that I will do is I will throw a big swim bait. Now I'm talking about my favorite for deep water with cover is a Bass Mafia 6-inch blackback shad swim bait. The reason for that is I can crank it real slow and I will feel the lay down or rock or wood or wherever it is, and I can bounce it over in that cover or structure without getting it snagged because there's only one hook at the back. But when I get a bite, I hit that hook is down there and the bait slides up the line and I have good hookup to land ratios. That is how I fish any offshore piece of structure without forward fishing sonar. Spots number 4. Ledges and creek channels. Now why do I put these in the same category? For 2 reasons. One, some lakes don't have ledges or river channels. And some lakes have those. Like the Tennessee River lakes, they have a lot of ledges. Lead fishing is a major thing on the TVA lakes. But down here in the south, we don't got a whole lot of that. We have a lot of creek channels. We have some lead fishing, but not like 30-foot drops. But we have creek channels. Basically, think about it like this. Here's the bank. There's a creek channel. There's a ledge. That's a ledge. Okay? Think about it like that. A creek channel is more of like a trench. A ledge is here, here, here. Okay? Because rivers are a lot deeper than creeks. Just saying. So how do you fish a ledge? There's a couple reasons. One, you can throw straight down a ledge. If here's the ledge right here, here's the ledge wall. You can throw down, hit the bottom, and just drag it along the wall. You can throw a jig, you can throw a jerkbait. A jerkbait's a great way to catch ledge fish in the summertime, and nobody throws it. Because the jerkbait's suspending, so it'll kind of be up here, jerking around, but nobody fishes this area of the ledge because everybody fishes up here or up here. Nobody fishes the middle section. So in the big bass will suspend in that middle section. Another way you can catch bass on a ledge fishing is throwing a jig or a big worm. So here's throwing it all above the ledge and letting it fall down the ledge. And why you know how to catch a bite is when you throw it down there and you want to make sure it hits bottom. And then, because you're basically fishing that whole ledge. So you can catch fish here, 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 here. You catch fish anywhere on the ledge, all the way from the top to bottom. And you want to know how long it takes your bait to get from point A to point B. Because if somewhere, point A to point B, they take a pit stop, that's when you get a bass. So you want to know how long it takes. It takes 5 seconds to get from here to here. But it only took 2 seconds that time. Oh, you have a fish. So you still the hook. Creek channel fishing is like similar but different. One, you don't have those super steep drops, so you can't really fish a jig from right here, let it fall. But you can fish a jig, throw it above it, and just drag it through that saddle for a creek channel. That's a really good place to catch fish. That's a really good way to catch creek channel fish. Another way is to throw straight down the middle, or crank it over it, or throw a jerkbait, suspend it over it, because the shad will kind of stay on around the bank where the bank used to be for the dam of the lake, but the bass will be in there and they'll be ambushing it throughout the day. And then spot number 5 to catch bass in the month of June is, drumroll please, humps. Humps are a great way to catch bass all year long. Humps are a very simple way to catch bass all year long. What you do, get you a big worm, get you a jig, you throw it out there, you just let it hit bottom. You can throw it on top of the hump, drag it off, you can throw it like over the hump, drag it up the hump. A key thing with hump fishing though, hit the hump at different angles. So if you only hit the hump at this angle, and the bass are on that side of the hump, you didn't get them. You didn't get them. Because chances are, your bait is falling, boom, right in the middle of that school. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. Sometimes if you have a real aggressive bass, they'll come out and eat that bait. But a lot of times, the bass will not eat that bait because it's just like randomly coming down. Usually bait fish don't fall from the sky. usually they swim. That's why you see guys on the forward facing thing on like tournaments, they'll throw past the school usually, or they'll drop right down above it. But you don't know because even on forward facing, the hump is blocking, so you don't even know if there's fish on this side. You don't even know if there's fish. So what you do is you can scan the whole hump, but you might scare off fish, especially if the fish are really used to prop noise and prop motors. So what you do is you hit the hump at different angles. So I like to do a 4-prong approach. I hit here, and then I go either to the right or left, depending on how I feel that day. And then, really depending on how the wind goes, because usually the wind kind of pushed me either way. So I'll hit the hump here, and then I'll hit the hump here, and then I'll hit the hump here, and then hit the hump here. And if I don't catch anything on those 4 hits, then I'm dipping to the next hump, or ledge, creek channel, or point. And that concludes our top 5 spots for the month of June. Hope y'all liked the video. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. We want to get this channel rolling. I want to be the youngest fisherman YouTuber ever. Okay? I want to be up there with the big dogs. See you later. Have a good evening, morning, rest of your day, night. See you later. Catch a big one. Peace.